Welcome back to the Strangers Worth Meeting podcast, and today I'm starting the podcast a little bit differently than I have before, and I'm very excited about it because today I get to share with all of you that Strangers Worth Meeting has our first sponsor in Track Farms. If you've been listening to the show, you know I talked to my friend Connor Kerrigan on the last episode, and we just love everything about Track Farms, and he's involved with that project and got us connected so that Track Farms can be a part of Strangers Worth Meeting, and I'm excited to be able to share about their products with all of you. So in case you missed that episode, we talked about all the amazing CBD products that Track Farms are creating. It's a local farm. I know the dudes who own it, which is very cool for me, out in Illinois, and they are creating honestly amazing CBD products. If you're anything like me, you've wanted to try CBD. I've certainly gone to my fair share of different places to try to purchase it. It's so hard to buy online, and it's so tempting to think you could just go to a store near you. But to be honest, I've just gone to so many different places. Why is it you always find yourself like in a random vape shop trying to buy CBD? You have no idea if it's a good product at all or where it comes from. So I'm so glad to be able to have found a place that creates amazing CBD products, and I know exactly what goes into that process. I made my first purchase, started out with some of the CBD pre-rolls. Let me say those are choice, and they also just sent me their brand new CBD tinctures that they've created, which is a lot like CBD oil, except they say this is more bioavailable. And to be honest with you, I felt that a great product that to me is the best thing in CBD that I have tried so far. So if you're looking for your CBD hookup, I've now got a special 15% off of your order if you go to track-farms.com/strangers and use the discount code strangers at checkout. You will find yourself with some amazing CBD products. I'll be talking a lot about it on the show, so give it a chance, check it out, see if you like it, and hopefully you get to enjoy some of those benefits of CBD. Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new Strangers Worth Meeting episode, deep in the heat of the Tucson summer. I'm getting ready to leave Tucson because it's getting way too hot for me. But before I leave, I really wanted to have another episode with a fellow Tucsonite. Is it Tucsonite or is it Tucsonian?
Tucsonin.
Tucsonan? All right, I like that.
Hmm.
Fellow Tucsonan, who's already being helpful on the podcast. With me, I've got Kye Gutierrez, who is going to talk with me about yoga and being outside and all sorts of interesting earth-saving things. So, Kye, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. For the listeners who get to miss all of my technical mix-ups, we just got to do that intro again. I liked it a lot better the second time. What did you think?
Yeah, no, excellent.
Yeah, I wish you
Fluid.
guys could see the behind the scenes, but the thing is, if I don't hit record, then you literally can't. So there's nothing to do about that. Okay, so Kye, I found you because you have been doing some really cool posts, doing yoga in the great outdoors, around in and around Tucson, and I am really excited to talk with you about that. Can you kind of lead off with what the whole deal is with the yoga outside thing?
Yeah, so the good old Instagrams connecting cool people together. I have been doing what I have been kind of referring to as a project slash a startup. I call it Out There Yoga. And I'm sure we'll dive into that a whole ton, but the whole premise was me wanting to kind of have my own way of providing yoga for people. I've been a yoga teacher for about 5 years now. And I'm an outdoorsy type of person. I'm always outside. I practice yoga outside a lot. So I wanted to bring that experience to other people, as well as just getting more of like an event community gathering going, because I find that people kind of go to a yoga class and then there's like the murmuring afterwards, but you don't really have anywhere to go together. So I wanted people to have a little bit more time to get to know each other and yeah, get to do it all in the beautiful desert.
So the quarantine, the pandemic, the whatever you want to call it, coronavirus situation, that's probably not affecting you in a positive way, is it? You seem to like large gatherings of people and being outside, both of which are a little challenging right now.
Heck yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
these our last gathering was actually in December. We I mean, obviously that's before the coronavirus pandemic. We do our events outside. So we have to kind of play by the laws of Mother Nature. And although you mentioned Tucson getting pretty dang hot coming up here soon, back in January, February, it was freezing. The desert has pretty variable temperatures. So in the winter, we get really, really cold. And in the summer, we get really, really hot, as you can tell coming up here soon. So, due to the cold weather, we had to wrap it up, just take a few months off. And our first event for the year was set to be in March. And yeah, it was like a week after everything shut down. So we had to cancel that event. And going forward, we're just playing it by ear. We don't really know, but yeah, staying hopeful.
Yeah, well, I do hope you can get back up and running again soon. I was thinking about, particularly you mentioned the weather, how tricky it is out in Tucson. It really does swing quite a bit, but sometimes that can be really fun. Like the one thing I've been really enjoying is the fact that like when you've got this really dry desert heat, even if it gets like we had a I think yesterday was like 106 degree or something like that, but I was like if you get up early enough in the morning, you can still go out, you can still do your workout. Like it's nice and cool and beautiful, and the evenings are just gorgeous, and sunset lasts for freaking ever. Um, but I did notice, of course, staying here over the winter a little bit, that it does get pretty freaking cold in the middle of winter as well, and we were really bundled up, especially at nights. Do you like living in a climate that is kind of all over the place like that? Is that an interesting challenge for you?
Yeah, so I'm Tucson born and raised. My dad grew up here also, and my mom spent like 80% of her life here. So I have desert in my blood, and it was one of those things where I always tell people like Tucson's that place that you can't wait to get out of, but if you stick around long enough, like into your adult life a little bit, you start to see the beauty of it and you start to really appreciate those things. As well as when I started doing some traveling around the US, I realized that other places have to deal with some crazy climates and like high humidity, freezing winters, tons of rain or whatever. And I realized how actually consistent Tucson weather is besides the temperature. So we're pretty much dry year round except for our monsoons in the summer, which you're gonna miss unfortunately. But I love it. I've gotten pretty accustomed to making sure I have sun protection when I need it, making sure I have tons of layers when I need it, and yeah, I love it. I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, it could not be any more of a shift for us. Like we were just in like deep East Texas, practically Louisiana area, in well, I guess that was yeah in the early March, and literally it would just rain for days at a time, and it's just oppressively wet outside no matter what you do, and it's freezing. It was really not the best time. We definitely didn't have a lot of fun there, and we had to get our RV out, and I was excited to come back to Tucson. We decided it was like a great place for us to just wait this thing out, and be able to distance and be safe and responsible and all that. And but I had to do some serious work to like restore our RV because literally just sitting in that type of humidity all day long, I'm like fighting rust left and right. It's really really unfortunate. So I'm definitely a big fan of Tucson in terms of like my stuff doesn't get ruined from just being here, which is unfortunate. The the really fun thing is, so I've been doing these podcasts. I don't know if you caught this as you were scanning through episodes, but I've been recording every podcast here just in my truck. I just like drive out to a Walmart parking lot where I get decent internet to actually do this. And the last episode with let me think about when your episode comes out. Yeah, I think the episode right before yours with Connor Kerrigan, that I just recorded the other day, I was literally doing that in the truck nearing noon because it was a longer episode, and I've never been covered in as much sweat as I was doing that. It's like when people leave their dogs in their cars, and that's very very not cool move. That's how I felt. Except at the same time, I was also like, this is a free sauna, so you know, it's goods and bads. Like it is. Like just if you need a sauna, just go sit in your car. People like buy $1,000 saunas, but man, if you live in Tucson, you always have one available. Do you think that's
Heck
dangerous?
yeah.
Am I gonna die?
I no, I mean yeah, you should definitely monitor the time you spend doing that, and definitely don't be leaving your animals in the car outside of winter here. That's a big no no. You can look up all the stats on that on Google, I'm sure, but Yeah, I remember when we were little, me and my brother used to like if we went out to lunch and we had a big, like hefty meal and we were really full. Sometimes it's nice to sit in a sauna when you're really full. It helps. I don't know. I've always thought it helps me feel like I'm digesting better. So we would just go sit in the car with the windows up for a little bit, and it would make us feel a little bit better.
This is one of the things I was excited to talk with you about because I know that you are into health, and obviously I have a big obsession with all things health related. So we're already on one topic because I also happen to know that you're a Joe Rogan listener, which is good, and he's been talking a lot about heat shock proteins, which I had never heard of before, but apparently it's like your cells. There are like certain things you can do. It's not just heat. There's named heat shock proteins to actually create the different proteins that heal your it's not it's repair your different cells, and apparently heat is one of the ways to do that. And so I've been trying to embrace the like truck sauna life. I've been trying to just enjoy, like, maybe this is good for my immune system, maybe it's a challenge. I don't know. I'm either onto something or I'm totally fooling myself, and it doesn't really matter either way, but you know I'm doing it.
Yeah, or you just give yourself heat shock. No, I've definitely heard about that. I listen to Joe Rogan all the time. He talks about the saunas a lot, and I've always loved saunas. But even if you're not in a sauna and you're just kind of like hiking outdoors in the summer, doing it safe, staying hydrated, getting yourself out of the sun when you need to, I think it feels great. It makes you feel a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and you are quite the outdoors woman, um, correct? Because you just got back from a hiking trip, or a camping trip. I mean, where were you at?
Yes, sir. Actually, this whole quarantine, me and my partner have both been out of work for 7 weeks now. Between the yoga events and I also work at a hotel, so does he. We have been, our business has been off the map for about 7 weeks now. So we feel kind of guilty when people ask us how we're doing, and we're like, well, actually, we feel like we're living that like dream retired life. We're just spending as much time camping as possible. It really helps make you feel that disconnection from all the hype in the media right now. And we come down every few days and we check back in, check the stats, check the numbers, check the regulations, and then we just go back up. But our favorite place to be right now is up on the Catalina Mountains. Everyone kind of refers to that mountain as Mount Lemon. Mount Lemon is like one of the peaks up there at Lemon Rock. But in the Catalinas, there's just the widest range. I don't know if you've been up there, but the widest range of temperatures, climates, and just landscapes. So at the beginning of quarantine, in like March, we were spending a lot of time around the elevation of 5,000 feet. And it's a place called Sycamore Reservoir all the way out to Thimble Peak. And that was a beautiful climate, beautiful temperatures, lots of water. But actually, now we're heading up the mountain. I feel like in a couple week time there, it just got ridiculously warm. So we head up to about 7,000 feet now out at Wilderness of Rocks, and we spend a few days at a time up there. It's lovely.
So you kind of like split your week in two in a way, and you're like up there half the time and down on Earth the other half.
Yeah, down on Earth, we joke about that. We always say, "Oh, you think the city's still there?" on our way out,
Yeah,
because when you're down here, it can feel like the whole world's ending, and then you go up there and everything slows down. It makes a lot more sense. Helps
yeah.
keep your head on straight.
Do you guys like backpack and go real like backcountry camping, or do you take your vehicle with you to your site?
Oh yeah, no, we backpack, so we're not those extremely efficient ultralight backpackers, but we have packable gear and some good packs. Our dog Jana even has her own pack, so we don't usually go those extreme miles. I've never done a through hike or anything, but we hike about 4 to 5 miles in, and that gets us pretty far out to where we're not seeing too many people, and we like it that way. Yeah.
That's awesome. Andrea is always wanting to do more and more camping. Even now that I literally have moved her into an RV, it's not like enough, I think, for her. She still wants to go do more. Um, but I was hoping to get camping tips from you, to be honest, because we are taking off tomorrow. Because we're heading out of Tucson. Like I said, we're going up north into Colorado. But on the way, she found some really cool places that she wants to. It's called boondocking in an RV, where you just dry camp in the middle of absolutely nowhere. with no resources or power, but you take water with you. So I'm quite nervous about it. But she's done her homework. She's really prepped for this thing. I'm proud of her for that. She really talked me into it. But the key thing for me is I, with camping when I'm off the grid like that, I've never been good at knowing what to do with my time. Like I'm someone who this is a fault. This is a personal fault. I constantly need stimulation of some sort. I need to be like working on something or reading something or watching something or working or whatever. So being still has always been a challenge for me. Do you have any time spenders? Anything you guys do with your time when you're out there for multiple days to kill time?
Yeah, man, totally. A couple things. One, I relate to you so hard on that. I am like the busiest body ever. I have always had a million things to do. And then, into the adult life, when you're out of school, in comes social media. So any spare second you have, you could be distracting yourself, right? I'm an avid reader, I'm an avid podcast listener. So there's not very much time unless I make it a point to where I'm just still. And when I started practicing yoga, it's been about 10 years now, that was one of the main things that I realized I was missing in my life was a little bit of stillness. And then I realized how much more stillness a little bit would turn into. Intentional stillness, I guess, making myself be bored. I always refer to it as I'm practicing being bored because I'm just so terrible at it. And I think in a world where our attention is so little and kids are getting medicated all over and stuff just because we don't know how to train our attention, I find that when I get too wrapped up in my whole world, I'm like messaging people back, I'm like running to a yoga class, I'm at work all day. It gets so easy to forget why I practice being bored. And so when I make those intentional trips out for a few days, it's like that first day, I'm like taking pictures of everything. I'm just like, so just playing music and just keeping my mind busier than I'd like to. And I always say that first wake up doesn't count, but that second day wake up, once you've been still for a couple days, it's so monumental. And it's like you wake up feeling fresh, like you're a new person. Thoughts aren't whirling around in your head, and it's a lot more still. So I
What is the
recommend.
what is the like
Sorry.
that applied stillness? Is that like sitting meditating type stuff? You mean like
Yeah.
total silence, total stillness physically?
Yeah, so when I'm at home, that's how I would practice it because I don't really have another way, right? So if I'm like in a room and there's my phone over there, there's the computer over there, and I could probably go to the fridge for a snack, like there's too many things going on. So practicing meditation when I'm at home is definitely the way I do it, or a yoga practice, or a workout, or just a long walk. But when I'm up in the mountains, I find that I do get that same restlessness. Like, what are we gonna do? Want to play some cards? Want to throw the frisbee? What do we want to do? And you start catching yourself in that pattern of what do I want to do? Well, why do I want to do something? And it helps you catch your tendencies, and it helps you tune into what else is going on in there in that like kind of mind racy state. So, but yeah, getting to your point, we do some activities. We usually pick like a day hike up where we go. There's a place called Lemon Pools, which is pretty consistent water source. We jumped in yesterday. It was pretty chilly, but it was still deep enough to jump in. Nice clean water. We bring our frisbee everywhere. We're ultimate frisbee players, so we bring the disc to throw. We like to set up our camp pretty particularly, and I can't take too much credit for this. This is my partner Nate. This is so his forte, but he likes to have things set up a very particular way. We've kind of mastered the efficiency of making the camp functional and minimal, and just once you put it up, you don't have to touch it, kind of thing. Your shelter's in place. So we spend plenty of time doing that, watching the sunset. Finding a good spot to watch sunset, making food, and yeah, sipping beers around the fire. It's a fun time.
Yeah, I that all sounds great, and I'm still worried. Like, and I've gone, oh man, and I've gone camping lots of times, and it's still challenging for me, and that's not. Hmm. How do I approach this? Because I don't want to sound like someone who is, well, you know what it really is. Here's what it is. Here's what it is, and it takes me 20 seconds to get this thought out. Um, I am always engaged and interested in doing healthy things for myself, except when it comes to the part where you actually have to relax, which is
Totally.
probably like a solid quarter of the health pie chart. But I feel like even in that relaxing moment, it's like what you're talking about, where there's always social media or something to distract yourself with. There's always a computer over there, a phone over there, and so for me, the real problem is like even reading books has become really difficult. Like I prefer an audiobook so that I can do something else while I listen. Like it's very hard to sit still. I think part of that is that I naturally just have a lot of energy, like physically, to get out. But then that means I should just go on a long quiet walk or something. But man, it's hard to shut those thoughts down. I am nervous, but I think it'll be all right. I'm also just realizing something I should have done with our setup before. Can you do me a favor and hit mute on your phone? Because that's going to help your voice not come out on my side.
Mute.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, listeners. We've just been fooling around with the setup all morning, and I realized that was like the easy. I should have had you do that already. Um, so now I'm all distracted by that. Literally, I
Yeah,
can't
man.
have a
No, I got you.
conversation about stillness, man.
I think I mean I'm not a doctor, right? And I'm no like yogi master, but I definitely have developed the belief that our focus, our ability to be still, I think those are the same thing, kind of just your ability to focus on something, your ability to not be distracted, to not be entertained. It's like a muscle, right? So it's one of our mental muscles. And it's something that can be trained and actually has to be trained. Otherwise, we don't have it. And so it can seem really intimidating at first. And I avoided meditating for, at least 5, maybe 6, well after my teacher trainings and all of that. I avoided it and I was like, nope, nope, that's not for me. I'm more of like a go for a run kind of girl. And I realized that my teacher Darren Rhodes said it's what you're the poses you're avoiding or the practices you're avoiding are the ones you need the most. And once I started practicing, it really hit home for me because it was so true. I was terrible at it. And
Mm-hmm.
and why was I terrible at it? Well, because I didn't practice. And now I can even catch myself, if it's a busy week at work or, I just put way too much on my plate or I'm scrolling social media too much, I'll forget, you easily forget why you were doing it in the first place or what that even means. And then, quarantine, I've been meditating a lot. It's so clear right now. Like it comes right back.
Yeah, it's like it's like willpower. I talk about willpower. Well, I don't know if I talk on the podcast willpower, but Andrew and I talk about willpower all the time as like a muscle that you have to work out. You have to make yourself do the hard thing. But it does seem, I see what you're saying in terms of like there are things that seem hard to you and certainly are, but you actually go for and do. Like I won't shy away from that really hard workout, but there's something that I know is really hard, like sitting still in silence, and I won't do it. And that's whatever it is, that thing I'm avoiding is probably something that I actually need. But I think for me too, like I've got a real logic based brain. Like everything needs to have a really solid reason for me, and so I feel like I have yet to understand the benefit to me. Like, the benefit of a workout is easy. The benefit of cooking healthy food, easy. Like, I can see those things and they're very clear. The benefit of sitting still, meditating in silence, I don't see it as clearly. Maybe you can help me. What is it that you get from that? Like, why do we need that?
Man, I feel like we could go down a couple different rabbit holes here. And again, I'm no yogi master, but it's
But I,
something
I
I've been
do think you,
passionate about.
yeah, I mean, you're farther down the path than I am, so help a guy out, like,
Totally,
yeah. And
totally.
I think a lot of people too, because I think a lot of people, well, meditation has some really unfortunate sort of uh connections for people. Like it's really seen as, I think a lot of people see it as like a douchey Silicon Valley thing to do, kind of like, oh, I take 10 minutes every morning and meditate. And then on the other hand, you've got like really, really out there alternative health people pushing meditation. And so for us middle grounders, like what's the appeal? What's the thing we can latch onto there?
Yeah, that's what escaped me for so long. We could go down a couple different rabbit holes. So
Go
one
down
is
all of
kind of
them.
Yeah, so the one is what I was kind of mentioning before is the ability to focus. So if you're not able to focus when you're absolutely like, there's one way to focus when you're like reading, and you don't have to go reread that same line like 8 times, right? Because you're focused. You have
Right.
all of your attention there.
Right.
So the mind, our brains, our human brains have the ability to project focus in different areas. So kind of like the way you can do with like an eye lens. I don't know if you've ever gotten your or like a microscope, like how you can kind of focus in and out, right? So you can either focus on the big picture or you can go really, really deep. But once the focus is there, you're never really messing with it. It's all consistent consciousness directed in that direction. Um, so the ability to train to do that is helpful in everyday life for just reading. If you're talking to somebody and you want to hear what they're saying, if you have a thought that you want to follow, maybe get it written down. You're not like scrambling for paper, you can focus on it. So there's that aspect that I think is, again, in our modern world, just a extreme skill that if you're able to have it in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to be so valuable. But
What do
uh,
you, if can I
sorry.
interrupt? And
Yes, of course.
when you're in that state of that stillness, then I think the trick for me is that I always want to think, well, what is it that I'm focusing on? But I feel like the thing I hear back is like, well, you're focusing on nothing, and that's too hard of a track for me to follow. How do you answer that question? Like, what is it that you're supposed to focus on or not focus on?
Yeah. So, a quote from my teacher's teacher. He says, before meditating, the idea is to be with what is, as it is, here and now. And what that's meaning is you're not trying to focus on nothing. You're trying to find the seat of the watcher. So when I say that, I mean, and this is where you're getting kind of rabbit holey, but so as a person, you have your consciousness. You can think thoughts, and you can like make a voice say something in your head, right? Like if you close your eyes and you're not speaking, and you can tell yourself say hello in your head, you can make that happen. Like you hear the voice in your head say hello. So that's kind of the same. That's like the person that's telling yourself to say hello in your head is that seat of consciousness you're trying to accomplish when you're meditating. So instead of trying to control thoughts, you're just witnessing that they're happening. And after a while of sitting there, probably weeks of trying and trying, you start to realize, oh, my thoughts are happening, but that's not necessarily who's watching. You're kind of watching yourself have thoughts. And you start to kind of get an inkling that something else is going on there. And the more you lean on to that, well, how do I sit further back and further back and just watch? You can start to kind of pick up on your own tendencies or your own habits, your mental habits. So you might have a thought like, oh, I heard a bird, oh, that bird sounded like this, oh, I thought that, and then all of a sudden you're having this internal dialogue. And when you can catch yourself, that moment you can catch yourself saying, oh, I'm in thought, I'm thinking, that's the seat of the witness. That's you realizing, oh, I'm in a habitual
Oh,
pattern of the mind. It's not me thinking, I'm just so consumed in my thoughts. My microscope is dialed in on those thoughts that I'm not dialed back just watching. I'm now living in those thoughts. And so what happens is, if we're sitting in our living room and a commercial comes on TV, we're like, oh, grab your phone. Why? Because the mental pattern is to be stimulated, to have something coming in. But if you just sit there and kind of zone out and you don't want to watch the commercial, what are you going to do, right? We don't have that ability anymore. So yeah, I guess the two rabbit holes are, you can either train your focus or you can go a little bit deeper and get to know the person behind your thoughts. And for somebody who has always had anxiety and all of that, that's really helpful for me to kind of see my anxious thoughts happen and then realize, well, I'm not that. So I can just go back and watch all this craziness happen. I hope that
yeah.
made sense.
No, it does. It does. And I feel like you're getting into something that I'm really into, which is like I started to recently really getting into the difference between our conscious brain and our subconscious brain. And it feels like what you're doing when you're meditating there is you're like using your conscious brain to observe what's happening in your subconscious brain. as opposed to allowing your conscious brain to have the like your ego to have the reins and be making the decisions. And that I definitely get. That I definitely get. Um, and I think it's easier, to get out of this rabbit hole and to go into another one. Of course, it's like it's easier to do that when you're out in nature for some reason. It seems like it's far easier to do that when the distractions are very far away. When I'm out there for the next couple days and I know for a fact that my phone is not going to work at all, nor could I really charge it if I wanted to use up the battery. Um, it's it's somehow easier to be able to shut those other things out because they're not even available to you. Is that one of the pulls of nature for you, getting out in nature?
Totally. Isn't that kind of weird? It's like everyone says that. Like it's easier in nature for some reason. It's like, yeah, isn't that weird? I often tell my boyfriend, it all makes sense out here, right? Like when we're hiking, it's like I just get these moments of like, oh, it all makes sense, you know? I probably sound like a psychedelic hippie when I say that, but it's like, no, like
No.
no drugs involved. It's just like the trees and the breeze and like the nothing to do but
Yeah.
one step in front of the other. It's like it all makes sense. It's like this is what it's all about, you know? So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, well, it's like existentialism at its finest, which is like the reason for existing was vastly different even a century or two ago than it is today. And we have to deal with this new reality where the reason for our existence is somehow supposed to be different than is really like encoded in our DNA. Um, I'm constantly pushing this book on this podcast for some reason. It's just that it's so relevant. Have you read anything from Dr. Christopher Ryan, like Civilized to Death? Have you read that book at all? Heard about it?
No, I haven't, but I have a book list. I can add it. What's the gist?
So I'm sure I've pitched this book. I think I talked about this book specifically with a through hiker from Tucson who I really wanted to read it. Um, Christopher Ryan, I think he's done a couple episodes on Joe Rogan's podcast actually. But he got famous from writing the book Sex at Dawn, which is talking about like pre-civilization humans and how we evolved with sex. But then he wrote a follow-up called Civilized to Death, which is sort of all about what we know about pre-civilization humans. And I think it's absolutely fascinating because it's talking about what life would have looked like for hunter gatherers pre civilization, living in small societies. And it's definitely not the picture that everybody paints. I think a lot of people paint with broad strokes as civilization solved a lot of problems. But I think this book shows maybe, but it also made life vastly more complicated for humans and didn't really need to happen. It's a great read, but he definitely, as you're reading that book and thinking about being outside, it really kind of connects you back to like, oh, okay, this is actually what my body wants. Like, this is what it wants to do all day. It just wants to be outside and it wants to get up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun. And it wants to walk around and have very, very small input. Like, oh my gosh, I saw the best tweet, oddly enough, to sum this up the other day that said, I take in more information in a day than my ancestors did in their whole lifetime, and none of it improves me. And I was like, yes. Like, we have so much that's just hurtling at us, and it doesn't really make you happier or better, but you just have to take it all in constantly. And I think the pandemic, especially, is one of those times where it feels like we're really drowning in a lot of things coming at us, and just trying to make sense of what's going on. I do hope, like I'm always looking for the silver lining. I definitely hope that people who, whether this is fortunate or unfortunate, I'm not sure, but people are certainly having to spend a lot more time with their families at home, living a much simpler life right now. I hope that that's helping people um, reconnect to some things. That's I don't know. That's my positive spin. That's my hope for people right now. Where was I
Man,
going?
well,
I
I
don't
don't know.
even know.
I'm right there with you. Like I said earlier, I try not to be too insensitive. I know, there's a lot of people really struggling with this, and we're
Yeah,
losing a lot of people. I mean, I, I haven't had anyone close to me get sick, and I have, well, a few people, but no one's gotten severely ill, and I haven't had, I haven't had to not pay rent, but I have been one of the people out of work for the last 7 weeks.
yeah.
And there's no real, I mean, I don't know when I'll be back in work. I work in pre-planned events, I don't know.
Hmm.
when that'll come back. So there's no real light at the end of this tunnel, but I can't help but I can't shake the feeling that this is all, you know, overall a good thing. Like I think um, a lot of people are going to come out the other end of this really questioning a lot about their life. It's like one big meditation for the whole earth. Like just having everyone stop for a second and have to watch and evaluate what's going on and what is their home life like, what is their health like, everything's kind of gets shaken up a little bit. And, my one of my teachers said that the half most of the work is done by just becoming aware of it. So when you become aware of something, change is already in motion. You're already gonna do something about it. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think this hopefully will be a good thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know, we're facing problems that are far more naturally human to face right now. Like people are faced with shortage of food. It's a real problem. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's definitely a normal thing for humans to think about. It definitely makes people start thinking about, should I be going out and thinking about getting my own food? Like, how can I provide for myself? How about some gardening skills? How about some hunting skills? Like, that's a real thing. I just feel like every day we're just confronted with problems that aren't really real. And sometimes a situation like this is like, oh no, these are actual human problems. These are problems that we're well equipped to deal with and to learn how to overcome, instead of sort of the normal fake problems that we end up having. Um, it's intriguing. It's intriguing. I think that it's a great time for me to have a podcast. I'm glad I started it right when I did, because I'm going to be able to have the conversations pre-pandemic, mid-pandemic, and post-pandemic, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything is evolving and have like this record in my life of what people were talking about and how things were going, and were some of the things we're talking about now, did any of them come to fruition or not? Was it all just terrible? Um, it's it's really fascinating. Anyway, this is such a deep rabbit hole at this point. I'm gonna try to pull us out of this one, and let's try another one. That is right up your alley, because I truly don't know much about yoga. Like many people, I've tried it a few times, because I've tried just about everything with training and physical health, and I have done some YouTube videos on a yoga mat from home, and it never really like stuck with me. I can't say I've been to a class. I'm sure that that's a much better environment. But tell me something about yoga. Like, what's the draw for you?
Well, I kind of mentioned it before. I first started practicing yoga when I was doing a lot of weight training in the gym, and I was realizing that I was feeling very unbalanced. I've always been a pretty limber person. I grew up a gymnast, so I wasn't accustomed to feeling not limber. And in the gym, things get really tight. The muscles get bulky and they get tighter, meaning you're getting stronger, of course. But I was feeling very unbalanced. And my boyfriend at the time actually, well, he's still my boyfriend now, he was into yoga. Um, Again, this is almost 10 years ago, but he would just kind of do it at home. I think we had like the P90X tapes that we would do
Sure.
at
Yeah.
home.
Okay.
And I started getting into it and I was like, wow, this is really friggin' hard. It was hard to do. And I was like, why is this hard? These are not weights. We go and lift weights in the gym, we do pull-ups in the gym. Why can't we do this? And it kind of sparked this interest in me. I've never been good at things that are accepting that I'm not good at certain things. So we dove into that and we started going to a local studio called Yoga Oasis, which is where I now teach. And I remember her name was Bree Downing. She still teaches there. She was my first yoga teacher. And every Tuesday, Thursday before the gym, we would go do yoga. Before or after, it just depended. And it was about 2 years of just using it to supplement with weight training, and starting to feel a lot better in my body. And so, mind you, this is 2 years later. I remember being in Shavasana, which is at the end of class when you lay down and you let your energy all settle back into your body. I remember being in Shavasana and I felt like a little tingling in my fingertips. I was like, whoa, what's happening? And I remember feeling like my eyes were closed, but I remember all of a sudden my whole mental space opened up and I felt like there was so much room to breathe inside my head. Like my head just got that little bit of stillness, that taste of stillness that I hadn't ever experienced before. And the tingling in my fingertips was just me being aware of my energy, what we call our aura, just being able to witness the energetic state of my body. And yeah, after that, I started going a whole lot more. I would go to classes multiple times a week and um, got really interested in teacher training. I hadn't picked a quote unquote career path at the time and was pretty open to just trying new things. And so I did my teacher training. Um, and yeah, I guess I kind of went right around that initial question. You were asking what is yoga, or I
No, no,
lost you.
not
I'm
at all.
sorry.
You got me. I was saying what like drew you in, and so what
Oh
you're
yeah,
saying
totally.
is like it's that mental component. It's again like where we started. It's that stillness or something. And I feel like there's something with yoga where correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's something to the idea that like you almost physically wear yourself out, and you get so connected in with your body that at the end of it, it's like your brain is just like released in a way because you're physically so done. Am I right in thinking that, or is that like a wrong picture to draw?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. I'll premise this. There's so many kinds of yoga. I mean, there's some yoga where you go sit in a temple and meditate all day. So there's that. There's also like restorative yoga and just feel good yoga. The kind of yoga I teach is both hatha and vinyasa. So those are a little bit more intense in terms of you are working your body, you're in these poses, you're holding them for a while, or you're getting your heart rate up in a vinyasa. So there's definitely that element to it. My flow teacher Annie Smith, she referenced I'm gonna get this so wrong, but she referenced somebody who was talking about flow, and they said if it's not hard enough, like if you don't hit that point where it's just barely attainable and it's pushing you to that point of being like wanting to quit, then you can't be in flow. Being in flow, you have to get that element of challenge that makes you, I guess, like play with some demons and get those out. And yeah, by overcoming that bridge of wanting to quit or having it be too difficult, that's when you kind of step into that next level of being in flow and just feeling connected, because you're showing yourself you're opening up new pathways in your brain, and you're um, making your body work in different ways. And there's the whole element of different parts of your body can hold different energies and block up different energies. So when you release those through movement and stretch, there's that whole mental component. So yeah, it gets deep.
Yeah, no, I buy it. I buy it because, well, like many people, I think after just a really solid workout, you mentally feel a lot better. You feel a lot of relief in your body and in your brain. And I feel like to me, it always seems like yoga sort of capitalizes on that connection in a way that a lot of other workouts don't. Um, but I think probably the reason that I haven't really tried it seriously is exactly what we talked about. Just my issues with like the idea of being still. Like it's easy enough for me to throw a kettlebell around or do some shadow boxing or something because I can listen to like my book while I'm doing that. But I think that would be cheating if I'm doing yoga and listening to a book. Unless
Totally.
I'm wrong about the rules. Maybe it's okay
Well, I
in
don't know
some
if there's any
spot.
rules these days, especially with America kind of taking our own twist on it. There's a new kind of yoga every day. I think there's like
Yeah.
stripper yoga. There's all kinds of yoga. But
Did you see
in
that?
terms of
Have you seen that documentary about the Bikram yoga thing? That whole scandal?
no, I haven't, but
Oh,
I've heard some of the rumors.
it's rough. It's rough. It's so sad too, because it definitely seems like. Well, first of all, it seems like the dude stole the program. It's basically just a program, and it seems like he just stole it. And then it seems like he's a really good manipulator and manipulated people really well. But it doesn't mean that what he was doing was a bad thing. Unfortunately, if he had come with good intentions, it'd be all good. Because this type of yoga was like helping a lot of people, from celebrities all the way down to normal people like us. But he used it to be a predator and to be a total creep. So it's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
Um,
I see that. I think
yeah,
I mean, I've had to develop this skill over time, of not, you know, not saying certain kind of yogas are right and wrong. However, I've never played in the world of Ashtanga or Bikram. I'm sorry, and I've heard that Bikram can be kind of like a sport. I guess it's a little more high intensity, a little more strict. So
Yeah.
I don't dive into that world at all, but I'd be interested to dabble now that I know the rumors.
Well, it seems intense, and certainly, he was making them do it. I don't know if this is the roots of like the hot yoga thing, but he was making them do it in really heated spaces. But he was like in an air conditioned chair. You watch these clips of him. It's so obvious. It's like it's cult mentality. He's a cult leader where he manipulates people and insults them to, need to get approval from him. It's totally sad. But you definitely can see that certain people were like, yeah, but the yoga was awesome. Like it was really making
Hmm.
me feel great. It does seem intense though, like you said. Like it seems physically just insane. And also really quite painful. The stuff that he was doing. Maybe this. I'm thinking now. Maybe this camping trip would be a good time for me to give it a shot. I know Andrea would show me some stuff because she does it quite often. But maybe I'll give it a shot out in the desert and just see if I can have some stillness.
Yeah, I would say like go for a hike, sleep overnight, wake
Uh
up,
huh.
and try it the next day when your brain's had a little bit of time to shut off. And I don't know, play some music you really vibe to. Like there's no quote unquote yoga music. I mean, the people who come to my class know I'm gonna play whatever I want. So play some music you really vibe to that gets you focused, and try it out, man. You might be
Okay.
surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. I'll give it a shot.
And if you're
Finally.
not, know that it took me like 2 years to understand what I was even doing. So there's that too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a learning curve. I definitely like. I'm not gonna just try it once and be like, all right, it didn't work. I'm done. Um, I get that. Um, okay, so then where does the outdoor component come in for you? Because I feel like you're pretty passionate about nature. Was that the tie-in for taking that yoga to the next level and doing these events outside? Just feeling like it would add something to the experience?
Oh yeah. So I remember it would start when we were on like camping trips. Like a group of friends would be on a camping trip, and somebody would just mention like, "Hey, Kai, you should lead a like, yoga class." And I'm like, "No, I'm not leading a yoga class. Like, what are you guys talking about? Shut up." And it planted the seed in my head, and it was a seed for a very long time. I would say a couple years. But I had started having these visions of just having people outdoors, because so many people via Instagram or wherever they would message me and say, "Oh my God, like where do you go? Like I didn't even know those places existed. Like wow, you're always outside." And it's like, well, yeah, you can be too. So many people would say, I wish I could be outside. I wish I could do that. And it's like, well, you just have to do it a few times and show yourself how it is right there. We're surrounded by mountains, we're surrounded by national parks and all of that. You can just go do it. So in an attempt to get people together, just communities together and have that larger than just an hour yoga class experience. Doing yoga outdoors in nature, some people come who don't even practice yoga and they just like the nature part and they realize they like the class. So it was kind of getting all three of those community, nature, yoga elements together. And yeah, it was kind of an idea that was helped nudge forward through my friend Mariah Grimes. And she really was the backbone of just saying, yeah, just do it. No, it doesn't matter if you're ready, just do it. And the first event sold out and it was a huge success. So I was like, well, I guess we're doing it again next month. And then, 4 events later, I made it official.
You may have already mentioned this, but like, what's the biggest number of people you've had out there all doing this at once?
Well, I've tried to keep it semi intimate. I mean, I know it's what would the word be? I would like to see it grow really fast. However, the intimate element of it, of having it still feel like a yoga class, I wanted to keep for as long as possible. So I got up to, I think our last event had 35 people, but I've done some polls and asked the group what they think, and a lot of them like that number. I think our anniversary event, which I don't know, I haven't even told anyone that this was going to exist. I don't know if it'll exist. Who knows at that point? But
Right.
the goal was anniversary event double in size. So our first event had 20 people. I wanted to have 50 people. So that's over double, but same location. So hopefully that'll happen. Not
You could
hoping for
always
more than 50 at this time. I want to keep it pretty manageable.
you could always throw some masks on and space the mats 6 feet apart, right? I mean, that's is that semi-realistic?
People have mentioned it. I've I've been kind of responding to those offers as these events are so much about that community element, feeling
Yeah.
so connected to humans when we're all trying to connect via our smartphones. So I don't know if I would try that per se. I think by the time I'm willing to bring these events back, I'm going to hug everyone and I'm going to have everyone, the regular distance apart. So I'm willing to kind of wait it out a little bit longer just so that we hold the integrity of what these events are about.
Yeah, that human connection, that's messing with me. I think that's messing with a lot of people. I mean, even when you're around other people, you literally can't see half their face, which is like so much of just human to human connection. And obviously with this podcast, like a big reason for the podcast for me was to be able to actually go meet and engage with people. And I feel like at best, like if I'm at my absolute best connectivity, I'm still only meeting about 50% of you. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's sad. It makes me sad. The best thing I can do is tell myself like at some point you and I'll get to meet up. At some point I'll be able to come out. Hopefully I'll be like a yoga pro and a stillness pro at that point. Um, come out and do some yoga with you in the very near future. Um, but it is kind of it is messing with my head. And I could see why you don't want to bring that back too soon before when it's going to be lacking something that you want from it and that people are going to want from it, which is that connection.
Yeah, man. So much of I mean, I'm an avid festival goer. I don't know if you've ever music festivaled in your times, but I'm an avid festival goer. I do, I participate in community events a lot. Like, I play an ultimate frisbee league. There's like 100 of us out there at a time every week. So, and then the whole yoga community. There's just so many parts of my life that are big community oriented, and I know how much that impacts me and my life and my inspiration and my motivation and just passion, getting excited to wake up in the morning, even if you don't absolutely love your job, at least you have this event you're looking forward to. So I wanted to give people who weren't looking for that huge festival experience or not committed to a weekly event, just something to look forward to, something to kind of shake up their norm and get them out there. So, yeah, I mean, I feel you on the I feel you want to it go into my head. I mean, I talk to my boyfriend and my dog most of the time, so I was wondering if I would be able to talk normal today.
Yeah, well, me too. I feel like, yeah, it's funny. It's like even at 100%, I'm still not able to fully do what I want this podcast to do. But at least I can do something. Like at least I can keep it going, and it's still a chance to at least make plans for the future. But the one thing so what I also like about this episode, as I was looking through your Instagram, doing my homework and making sure I knew some things about you, was I realized that I just get to get your advice on a lot of things and your expertise on a lot of things. Like this has been great for me because you've given me some camping expertise, some meditation expertise, some yoga expertise. It's all great. I got another one for you, which is I know you're really passionate about the zero waste and composting type stuff, and that's something that I know Andrea is really into and has been trying to talk me into. We've certainly gotten better, like particularly because we're about to go boondocking. One of the things that we've done is I want to haul as little water with us as possible because water is heavy, and so we've been trying to see like how much water would we actually use in a day if we can really do our best to like stretch it, um, outside of drinking water, of course. And so I want to know a little bit more about how you go about doing that, the composting, the no waste. It seems really challenging to me. What got you into doing that?
Yeah, so I guess first disclaimer is I unfortunately can't compost. I live in a rental and we're not allowed to have a compost bin. So I guess
No.
unfortunately that's not in my scope of expertise right now. However, I know some people I could point you to
Oh, maybe I'm
who could
mistaken.
help
I
you
thought
out.
maybe
No, but
I'd seen something you referenced it maybe.
oh yeah, no. Well, I try to do as little waste as possible. So my partner and I have been cutting down on waste slowly but surely over time. Especially when we started backpacking, and you realize any trash you bring in, you have to pack out. And actually, when we backpack, that's probably the time we use the most packaged food. But so we try to be as low waste as possible, and we try to like we're dabbling now in maybe growing some food. This quarantine has sparked that in a lot of people. Um, But yeah, I would honestly love to learn more about composting. I know I have friends in Seattle, and it's to the point where they're like, if you go to somebody's house and they don't have a compost bin, you're like, who the heck are you? You know. So I love that the world's heading in that direction. In terms of water, I mean, dry camping is tough, man. I mean, we are so blessed that up on the mountain where we go, we have almost year-round water flow. So, I mean, I know people don't picture the middle of the desert having that, but up in the mountains, we have some springs that do run year-round. So,
So you just take a filter and you can have pretty much as
yeah.
much water as you
So
need.
we use a platypus filter. It's a gravity fed filter, and we filter straight out of the stream. It's the best water you'll ever have. It feels so good. But yeah, we don't dabble in dry camping that much. However, anytime we go to like say a music festival or something, and we don't have like running water, you got to get really creative about how much water you're using for other things besides just drinking, right? So you can skip a shower or two, I guess, but you're in the truck, you're probably accustomed to that.
Yeah, yeah, it works out just fine. But how do you get to that zero waste place with just like conventional things? I feel like the hardest thing for me these days, I mean, we have cut down a lot of things. Most of that is just because we've really embraced minimalism as much as we can, and so we just don't buy a lot of things that we don't need, but we still buy consumables. Like we still buy plenty of food, as fresh and as close to scratch as we can buy. But I still feel like there's so much packaging involved. Like it's so hard to avoid that. How do you go about that?
Isn't it frustrating? Yeah. I mean, I could the food waste thing hits home for me because I work at a hotel, and I won't bash them. I won't mention their name, but every hotel does it. You know, you put out a buffet line, and you just watch troughs and troughs of food go down the, in the dumpster every day. It made me it gets to me sometimes. It makes me feel like what are we even doing this for? You know, like these big corporations are just wasting so much, but. I usually live in the scope of, well, if I'm one of the like top 10% of people who care, and I'm not doing 100% effort, how do I expect people who don't care to do anything? You know, so you kind of have to pave the way in that scape. Where I started, honestly, was just bulk food. Bulk food helps so much. You know, instead of buying that, canister of oatmeal, you go to the store and you fill up your reusable bags and you just get oats in bulk. Or
Yeah.
you can make a lot of sauces at home. I know sauces come in containers, and you can buy big bulk, like oils and vinegars and stuff to make sauces. And yeah, just as much fresh food as possible. So I gotta be honest, I usually go to the store at least twice a week, like down to Trader Joe's or something. But even though Trader Joe's has way more packaging than I feel like they should at this point, little insert there. But yeah,
It's
I
still,
think,
well, I think it's like one of those things where you go to like a solid health food store, or even places that like call themselves a health food co-op, and really what it is just an excuse for people to put like a leaf icon on their bag
yeah,
of the same product that you can buy at Walmart. Like it's not. I get frustrated, especially like I did an episode a little while with these amazing sourdough bakers in Las Cruces, and so we already like talked through food so much. But I definitely get frustrated with people not knowing what's in their food,
mm,
and not recognizing that like this package thing, just because it comes in a green package and costs 3 times as much, it doesn't mean that there's anything better in there for you than the junk food. It's just like it's just better marketing. Um, it does make me frustrated sort of in that way. But I'm right there with you. We also have to go to the store quite often, mostly because our fridge in the RV is not like a residential size fridge,
mm-hmm.
so we can't even buy that much all at once, which is fun.
Yeah, and when you're buying fresh food, it goes bad after a couple days. You can't
Yeah,
buy heaps and heaps of stuff at a time
right,
anyway. But
right.
I enjoy going to the store. I mean, now it's been kind of weird because I've been trying to go only like once every 2 weeks,
I know.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it gets tricky. I find myself buying more packaged food right now than I ever have, or have at least in a lot of many years. I'm just trying to get stuff that'll last. But yeah, I mean, it's been wild. I guess I first started. I didn't answer this before, but I first started getting into the Whole Foods, not even for the waste. It was back in high school. I actually had really terrible acne growing up, and I kind of got caught wind that changing up your diet, fixing your hormones, and all of that could help clear up your skin. So it was pretty, I guess, shallow at first that I was trying to eat healthier and do all this. But then what has it been? It's probably been like, I don't know, 15 years now that I've been really focused on what I eat. And I feel better now than I ever do have. And I eat mostly food that looks like the way it came out of the earth, you know? So that's what
Right.
kind of my rule of thumb is how close to how it came out of the earth does it look? And if it looks unrecognizable, you probably shouldn't put it in your body.
Yeah. No, well, and I think it's funny to me that you said that that was like a shallow reason to get into it because I totally disagree. I actually feel like acne is one of those things that's like a signal from your body that like, okay, something's not right here. Like
The
you're
biggest
missing
signal, right?
something.
It's like your whole face is inflamed, like something's
Yeah.
wrong.
And I mean, part of that obviously I'm not trying to say that puberty doesn't exist. Like part of it is just it is what it is, but there's a lot of things wrong in how we approach it too. I mean, I think I went down the conventional route with acne as a teenager where, you see a dermatologist and they give you a prescription cream and it's like, wow, I wish I had talked to some type of more holistic healthcare professional who could have told me like, here's the things you should and shouldn't eat. Throw some apple cider vinegar on your face. Like, here's how bacteria works. That would have been really intriguing to me. So I missed the boat on that one. I was really late to the party and got to deal with all that fun acne in high school. But I do think that it's an opportunity for some people to, whether that's because you're embarrassed or not, it doesn't make it really shallow. It's probably just recognizing a symptom from your body. I don't know. Maybe that's maybe that's a
Yeah,
hopeful way of looking at it.
I think it's all hormones too. I think when you're balancing your eating and all of that, you're not only balancing inflammation in your body, but you're balancing hormones. And so I know through puberty that's a huge part of it. But sometimes
Right.
I wonder if I would have been eating, and my parents did a great job. I mean, they fed us as well as they knew how to. But I wonder if I would have had a much cleaner diet growing up, if I would have experienced acne and like puberty the way I did. I don't know.
Right.
I'm
At
curious.
the same time, there's another side of this conversation, which is like acne and being embarrassed and self-conscious as a teenager can make you a better person. like like
Yeah.
the people who had like parents who knew a lot about nutrition or just could buy them really expensive healthy type foods like cuz I'm the same way. My parents definitely did the best they knew how and they cooked for us quite often and that was great and I'm very grateful for it. Um and I also think that the information on what is and isn't healthy is far more widely available now that we have the internet, which is really helpful. So you can actually go and get yourself educated, which is really, really helpful. Not necessarily something that my parents had right at their fingertips like that. Um, but I definitely think that kids who are raised with no problems turn into pretty boring people. Um, like you gotta have some shit to get over, right? At
It's
least
so
I think
funny you
so.
say that. It's so funny you say that. My boyfriend Nate, bless his heart, he had worse acne than I did, and it lasted a long time. I think he was even on Accutane, which I tried, and that was not an easy experience for me. But in terms of the acne, we always say that we're like, I feel like we would have been real a holes if we didn't have acne in high
Yeah, you
school.
can't
Like,
be pretty when you're 12. Like, screw
yeah,
that. Like, I
you
even
got
get
to peak
mad
in your
about
20s.
well these and kids now too. Like, it's so widely available to them, health information and even just like makeup. I feel like and fashion and like all of these things are right at their fingertips. And these kids are way cooler than I was as a kid. But I don't know if I think they're gonna be cool because I feel like I'm cool because I got bullied and because I was totally self-conscious and like that drives you to make yourself better. And if you have no problems, then what's coming behind you? I don't know. It's tricky. Luckily, I don't have kids because I think people um, our age who have kids are the ones who actually have to face this. Like, do I want to make my kid's life totally easy because I know how to do that, or are they just going to be an asshole at the end of that?
Oh my God, totally. I think I joke about this all the time, but I always say I'm not qualified to be a parent, and I just say that because I mean, I at this time in my life don't see myself having kids, at least not anytime soon. So I'm somebody who's like the go getter, like, yeah, start a business, do this, whatever, travel all over. But whoa, have a kid, like, I don't know about that. That's a lot of responsibility, but hats off to the people doing it. I mean, it definitely brings on, I'm sure, so many lessons that I can't even begin to understand. But for my life right now, I know I'm not the person I need to be to step into that. So maybe, maybe in 10 years I'm a different person. I don't know, but not for me right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and it's tricky. It's tricky. I mean, on the one hand, I definitely wish that everybody waited until they were the person they wanted to be before they started having kids. But at the same time, I don't know if we'd ever have any more population after that. Like, I feel like if you really are like searching forever for the meaning of life and yourself and all these different things, it's like you probably are never going to do it then. Like,
I feel you on
um,
that. Start before you're ready.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's probably true. I mean, it's the same with opening a business. Can I compare opening a business to having a kid? Probably not. That would probably
I
make
don't
people with
know.
kids really mad.
We're gonna make some people
Uh,
really mad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't mind. I don't mind. They can get mad at me. They can tweet their outrage at me. It'll be good.
A business is
Start a
kind of like your
conversation.
little baby. You just don't have to deal with
Yeah,
like the fact that it's living. I don't know. It's a
yeah,
different ball game altogether.
yeah, yeah. Totally different. Much to the dismay of my parents that I have not had a child. But yeah. So I think that we've covered all the things I was particularly curious about in your story, but I always like to give everybody a chance. It's much easier in person. It feels so staged over the internet, but I want to know like if there are other things that you're into that I've missed and that you want to like chat about because obviously I only have a small picture of who you are from your social media presence. So like what else is there to Kai?
um, you pretty much have gone across the like spectrum of what I focus on and what my life's about right now. I guess um the story I'm starting to shed, but that I held on to for a long time was just that I'm just non-conventional. Like I didn't. I remember in high school, I I remember we had this like in the actors studio. I was in theater in high school, and they asked me, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what job do you want? And I said, none. I don't want a job. And that's just because I was so accustomed to thinking that a job meant you kind of sold your soul and none of your dreams are going to come true. So I've just been on this journey of trying to figure out what a job could mean, and what making how to make the things in the world that I want to see come to fruition come. And so right now what that looks like is just trying to create the things I wish existed, and trying to offer those experiences for other people. And in the meantime, trying to live as slow as possible and not put too much on my plate. I keep things pretty simple, and I try to just enjoy every day as it comes. I used to be a big hustler, and now I think it's more like trying to do as little as possible. It's like, how little can I do and still be successful and feel fulfilled? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It's like it's fully full circle, which is great because I think it's like that same focus that we talked about at the beginning. That's like instead of thinking about all of these outside effects of all the different things you do, like just focusing on how can you take your life and point it in a direction that's going to deliver to you what it is that you're looking for, and somehow, you know, career fits into that. And it's certainly cool that you have gone out and started your own thing to fulfill that. And I definitely hope you are able to get back up and running with Out There Yoga soon, when this thing is past, or when we know enough about it and can do things in groups again safely, and all that good stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to coming out and being a part of that at some point. So we'll have to stay in touch so that I can do that when I'm back in Tucson. It will not be long. It's like my favorite place ever. Um, and I definitely think this has been such a good episode to kind of like wrap up my time in Tucson because we've talked about so many of the things that I've been thinking about here. So you've been a perfect last Tucson guest, so thank you for that.
Oh man, I appreciate that so much. I didn't know I was your last guest. What an honor.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I have one more person I'm talking to who's from Tucson, but I won't be in Tucson at that time. So
Ah, gotcha.
doesn't really count. That's not quite the same. I gotta be here in the heat and feel it with you, and then we'll both know what's going on here.
Yeah, summer's
So
coming in hot.
oh man, no kidding, no kidding. So tell the people, where can they find you? Where would you like them to find you on Instagram or anywhere else?
On Instagram, I'm at barefoot with Kye, so like bare feet, like barefoot with Kye. And our Instagram for Out There Yoga is out.there.yoga. You can also, our website's launching today, so you can go to www.outthereyoga.com and all the info's there.
Perfect. And as always, I'll be trying my best to create a creative photo collage with the two of us. I'll have to find, what I need to do is I need to find a picture of you doing like a crazy yoga pose, and then I'm going to do my version, which will be, oh, that's a perfect one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, you've got one where you're like reaching, grabbing your foot behind you, and I certainly can't do that. So I'm definitely gonna try, and that's what we're gonna do for this episode. So everybody, go, if you want to go see me attempt something with yoga, then as always, you can find me on Instagram at @thicksonlife and keep track of the future episodes. And also find me on Twitter at @thicksonlife. And also, before I go, as this is the first episode with my new sponsor, which I'm crazy excited about, make sure you go to the link in my Instagram bio at @thicksonlife, because we are supported by the amazing Track Farms, and I'm absolutely loving their CBD products, and they have given a special code to my listeners. So if you go to the link in my bio, and go through there, it'll show you the code. I think it's just strangers, and that'll get you 15% off anything you want to order. Love these products, so make sure you go check them out. And thank you to Track Farms. Kye, thank you so much for being on the episode. It's been a total pleasure.
Yeah, Tyler, thank you so much. It was a blast talking to you.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to us doing some yoga together. When this whole thing is over, it'll be a celebration of non-pandemic back to normal. So thanks everybody for listening, and as always, we will see you on the next episode.